Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Just in Time Cafe. I'm Elizabeth Swan, the co-founder of the Just in Time Cafe. I will be your moderator today. Ooh, Siggy from Belgium, totally international. Um, if you've never been to the cafe before, you are in for a treat. I am personally quite psyched about today's topic because I need to know more. But the topic is lean into AI using artificial intelligence to transform your work with the fabulous Jessica Blake. Welcome, Jessica.
Thank you. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Huh. Let me give you a little background on Jessica. She founded Blake Consulting Group in 2018, offering ISO and lean continuous improvement projects to a diverse range of clients. As a highly skilled PMP certified engineering project manager with a master's degree in engineering management, Jessica has extensive experience in the manufacturing and oil and gas industries. I was a little bit in the oil and gas industries.
Hmm.
She excels at getting projects unstuck and delivering results. Jessica combines her technical expertise with strong interpersonal skills. Yay for that. And thanks to her extensive training in Clifton strengths facilitation through Gallup and her certification as a professional coach. This unique blend of skills enables her to understand and motivate individuals and teams toward success. And maybe she's going to motivate us towards success too, with as far as AI and CI go together. Um, but yeah, let me just say a few more welcomes here. I didn't get to welcome in Charles from, where are you from? I just lost you. Charles. You're in Hampstead, North Carolina, and Karen in Morristown, New Jersey. And who else did I miss? We've got Lynn. Lynn, you were at I think you were a winner with me, Mark Graben, and Karen Martin's giveaways during the Visual Workplace event. Jennifer Ayers, always welcome from Portland. Ingrid San Diego, Michelle from Houston, lovely. Welcome all. I am so psyched to have you guys here. So let me give you a little bit of info of what's out there now. Oh, hey, Kevin. Um, and let's see. The first thing is that we've got a podcast out, a new episode out. This is the last one of the year. It's a good one. We've got our interview with Tracy Defoe, who's a kata coach and adult learning specialist. And she's also on the editorial board of the Problem Solvers Toolkit. We have a second edition coming out next year, early next year. And she pointed out we were using the word resistors about people. And she said, what if you call them not yetsters, right? They're not on board yet. And that just caused a lot of discussion. So we had to talk to her about that. We have a new book buzz segment. Tracy and I have been just avidly reading a lot of the same books. So we dug into one we were both reading that talks about your own resistance to success. That's kind of fascinating, and just saying we're all creating every day. So a great line to go down. And then for Q&A, we talked about, how do you influence leadership to let go and invite others to build their skills, right? When leaders kind of feel responsible and don't want to let go of the reins. And then lastly, wanted to tell you that there's some new stuff coming in 2025. We're going to mix it up. We're going to have webinars, but we're going to have some interactive events, some new events coming. So you are now on our mailing list, having registered for this if you weren't already on our mailing list. So we'll let you know what's coming up with more of these free events. Okay, and with that, what I'd like to do is hand the reins over to today's expert, Jessica Blake.
Hello, everybody. All right. Good afternoon. I think it's afternoon in all the locations I saw. So good afternoon, everybody. Or if you're watching this later, I'm so glad you're here. So we're going to talk about AI and some models that we can use in our work, in our home life, in our continuous improvement, projects. So I'm Jessica Blake, Blake Consulting Group. Let's see if I can get this to advance. And I wanted to point out that this is an AI photo. So I did AI headshots, which was really fun. You have to pick 10 to 20 pictures and you submit them, and then it gives you 100+ pictures to choose from. So instead of paying to get my hair all dressed up and get, a nice suit and hire a photographer, I did AI headshots. I've tried a different couple of few and they've all been, some of them are great, some of the pictures are not, but it is so much fun. So if you haven't tried that yet, go out there. It's probably like 40 to 50 bucks somewhere in there. And it is so much fun just to look through all the different varieties of photos and clothing that they'll put you in. So just a fun little side tip there. So like Elizabeth said, I've got an undergraduate in biosystems engineering, a master's in engineering management, PMP certified, got lots of little trainings and certifications along the way, but we won't spend any time on those. All right, so Blake Consulting Group, our bread and butter is really ISO consulting, implementing ISO projects, but we use that as kind of a backdoor into places that could use a lot of lean and continuous improvement. So there's that one little line that says, thou shalt continuously improve, and we take that and we run with it. So I love getting in there where it's messy and trying to help figure out what the next step is to get us out of whatever we're in. So I want to preface this with, I am not an AI expert. I'm not professing to be or claiming to be, but I am a business owner. I have used AI in my business. Maybe not a bleeding edge, but I'm a leading edge user of a lot of technology. And so it's really fun to get to share kind of my experiences and what I've learned about it so far. I did a little bit of research, some background stuff to put this together as well. And I would love to know, what level of expertise do you guys have in AI? Are you guys coming at this, I'm afraid of it and I've never used it before. I use it sometimes. I wish I used it more. Or are you, IT professional and you use this every day and you train people on it? So I'd love to know what you guys are using. All right, so I use ChatGPT almost every day. Most of my reports to SLT. Never would like to start exploring. All right, not an IT professional, but I use it daily, use it quite a bit sometimes. And as Elizabeth and I were chatting before this, that I mentioned, like, it's like watching somebody use Excel, Microsoft Excel, right? I know a lot, but I don't know everything. And so watching somebody use a software always gives me new ideas. I'm like, oh, what did you do there? What was that keystroke you used? Or what was that macro or whatever? So I'm hoping to share some ideas with you that you can take back into your normal work. And, maybe you haven't thought of it before and using it in this way. So that's what I'm hoping to share with you, give you the basics to let you put your toes in the water if you haven't already. But then even if you have lots of experience, hopefully some of my use cases will be a little bit different and you can kind of start thinking about it in that way. So I see lots of frequent users, sometimes to help me rephrase words. I need to learn AI so I can use it. Yep. So this will be the getting your feet wet in the AI world, and hopefully more than that as well. All right, so we're going to talk about just a basic introduction to AI models. I did a little bit of research to collect some information so we could all have a level playing field, some tools, where they come from, what their pricing kind of structure is. We're going to go over some really cool case studies that I found. And apparently I really like medical case studies because there were some cool ones with AI. So I've got a few of them in there. How I use Copilot specifically, but this can apply to other things as well. And then how to use AI to improve lean or continuous improvement, teams, that type of thing. All righty. Okay, so just a brief introduction. So AI is in general the new technology that's starting to tackle tasks that we usually attribute only capable of humans doing. So visual perception, speech recognition, complex decision making, language translation, right? These real-time human brain-esque things that we do. So AI is taking those things that have normally been human and building out systems and models that can handle that type of complex reasoning that we naturally do. So in the workplaces, it's been really interesting to see the evolution just over the last few years. We've got automation, predictive analytics, natural language processing. We'll talk about what that is. Enhanced productivity and efficiency, decision-making, and reducing of errors. So we'll see some great examples of all of that. So there's a couple of different types of AI models. And what we're going to talk about today is this natural language model, or LLM, large language model. And this is kind of the main thing that we all interact with. So this is the front-facing, person-facing thing that most of us are used to. There's also some other AI technologies in the background. So there's computer vision models. We've got reinforcement learning models where a software can actually learn and grow. We've got generative models, which are going to create things, so music, images, lots of types of data. And then speech recognition models. So how do we convert spoken language into text and translation and that type of thing? So we're going to focus on natural language models or large language models. And that's typically what we think of now with AI. At least in my line of work, maybe you specialize in one of these, but all right. So how do natural language models work? So we're not going to get too in depth here, but what I want you to understand is they're not actually thinking, but what it's doing is predicting the next word that would be most likely to appear based on all of the information that it has learned from. So, if the word that we have is the next most likely word that it's going to produce, and I don't actually know what it is, but let's say it's the ship, right? So it's not complex, it's not doing complex thinking for us. All it's doing is doing this predictive language modeling. What is the most likely thing to come next? Which is why we get things like false data, inaccurate things, right? It's not pulling from true versus false. All it's doing is pulling the next best word. So I think that's a really interesting, we attribute a lot to it, but yet this is what it is doing for us. So it's beyond this, it's just magic. That's all I know. It's a black box and magic comes out of it. All right, so we're going to look at a couple of different tools and pricing, and I wanted to show us kind of ChatGPT 3 and ChatGPT 4. And there's all kinds of specs between the two, but at least what I've learned and what I've read is that ChatGPT 3 was not quite as smart as a human. It could do some reasoning, it could provide us with the right answer. ChatGPT 4, on the other hand, has surpassed general human intelligence. So this is really interesting. So a lot of times you'll find something based on a ChatGPT 3, it's a free version, and you can pay for the ChatGPT 4. So for most things, ChatGPT 3 is probably fine, but it's going to limit kind of that really complex reasoning that we see come out of that black box. All right, so there's a few tools, and I won't get into the details, and the pricing may be a little, it might change, but we've got Google Gemini, ChatGPT. I saw a lot of people mention that. So if you use a different software than ChatGPT, throw it in the chat box. I'm curious kind of what the variety of usage is here. Claude 3, we've got Llama 3, which is Meta, Gemini, which is Google, Mistral. I don't even know what that one comes from. Stable Diffusion, so that one's an interesting one that produces a lot of high quality image. Okay, I see TalkPal, Perplexity, Copilot, and Copilot's the one I use, so that's the one I'm going to use for my examples, but these same types of things can apply to a lot of scenarios. All right, I see Christine, Gemini, Padlet, ChatGPT, Zoom AI, Otter AI, Copilot. Right, so you're starting to see how all the AI is built into every software that we're using. So yeah, you'll see it everywhere now, right? You're typing something and it's like, do you want to improve the way that this is worded? That's AI, right? All right, so go out, this is just to get you started as far as what maybe you're interested in. As you can see here, this ChatGPT 4, $200 a month for the pro version. But I've heard some incredible things coming out of it. So that seems really expensive, but it may be useful for you depending on what industry you're in. All right, so we're going to talk about AI in the workplace. What types of things we're going to look at? So automation of routine tasks. So training a model to process purchase orders that come in. So instead of having a person manually entering a bunch of stuff and creating errors, creating defects, right? If we can automate that, not to say there wouldn't be defects, but that's going to get us to the place where we can use our human brains to do the complex decision making. Is this correct? Does this make sense versus just the rote routine tasks? Enhanced decision making, improved customer interaction. So for years and years, we've been going to websites and you get a bot that you talk to. until you say, I need a human, please, and then they connect you with a human. But even at the current technology level right now, I could build a bot for my website and have it answer questions about my services and my packages and who my people are and all of that. So it's starting to become where normal people can access that. It's really great at summarizing information, and I'll show you some examples of that. Summarize this, get an executive summary out of this document for me. Pull out action items from meetings or notes or emails. And then we're going to look at some ways to play with it with generating ideas and inspiration to challenge us to think a little bit differently, to build out problem statements a little bit more in depth. All right, so prompts, you may have heard of prompts or prompt engineering. So these are the questions or the instructions that you're going to put into the box to get the answer that you want. So it can include 4 parts. It doesn't have to. So if you just want to say, write me a poem, it's going to write you a poem, but it's not going to be very specific. So you want your goal. You want the context, if you have some, why you need it, who's involved, how important this is, the expectations, right? You can tell it a tone or a length. I want it to be really detailed with citing my sources, or I want this to be a creative, response to some question. And then what sources should it use? So we're going to look at Copilot. It can actually comb through all of my documents and all of my emails and pull answers from my work, which is really incredible. As a business owner, right, I have a virtual assistant. She's great, but there are some things that I can do. I can say, hey, go find me the meeting that I talked to Tom about our vendors, and it can go comb through all of our transcripts for the last 4 months, and it can pull up, here are the 3 meetings you mentioned, XYZ vendor. Do you want an excerpt from that transcript? Or do you want to pull up that video? So there's some really cool things you can do with getting into your work itself. So prompt engineering is basically how do we get the best answer that we can out of the prompt that we're putting in. You'll starting to see news articles about postings for prompt engineers, right? They're getting paid all these crazy amounts of money. But basically, how do we write a good question so we get a good answer back? The nice thing about AI and the models we've looked at is that you can iterate upon your question. So if you ask a question, write me a poem, it's going to give you a poem and you're like, no, 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 no. I want a sweet poem that talks about childhood, right? And I want it to be in this tone or that tone. So you can then have it reiterate upon that over and over until you get closer and closer to what you want. You can also save chains of prompts so that it will process things in a certain way. We won't talk a whole lot about that, but if you dive into prompt engineering, there's some cool stuff behind that. But for most users, just asking your question with as much context as you can is going to be great. All right.
Yes,
so what? Yeah, Elizabeth.
question for you. Ravi's asking, does this make organizing files not needed anymore or less useful?
Ooh, that's a good question. For me, I still organize things because yeah, I don't know. I look through things, right? I'm like, okay, I need to get to XYZ. But yeah, maybe it's not needed anymore. Maybe that level of detail or that level of organization isn't as necessary. So maybe I'm over processing now that this tool is available. That's a great question.
It's okay. Your kids will no longer organize. We will keep organizing.
That's right. I'm going to be that little old lady that's still organizing all of her files. All right, so we're going to talk specifically about Copilot. And it was really fun. I looked through all of the prompts that I've made over the last, 6 months or so. So I'm paying for the Copilot Pro version, which is $30 a month. So we're not talking $200 a month, but also not free, right? I'm paying for this service to be integrated into all of my Microsoft products. So it can edit, create content, ask questions, summarize information. So things like in Teams, after a meeting, I could say, give me a summary of this meeting and pull out my action items. And it can do that for me. So then I can send that to my client or my customer, my teammate. Hey, here are the things we talked about. Instead of going back and watching a recorded meeting from a team, maybe I missed a meeting, I could read the summary, the executive summary of that. In Word, you can select a paragraph and summarize a document. In PowerPoint, and I'll show you an example of a purely generated PowerPoint. So using a prompt like add an image of a target with arrows and it will come up. I don't believe it's actually generating images. I think it's searching and inserting images. The ones they inserted weren't weird. Sometimes you get weird images with AI, but it's pretty cool nonetheless. And then, like I said, find files Sam shared over the last 2 weeks. Give me a list of all the files and where I can download them. So some really cool stuff that integrates directly to my file structure. All right, so we're going to go through a couple of cool case studies, and then I'll show you some of my prompts, and then we'll look at some lean and continuous improvement ways to use these things. So like I said, I must really love medical things because a couple of these I picked were just like mind blowing, right? That they can now detect breast cancer, stage 1A, significantly faster with less false positives. So as you know, false positives are a huge problem in mammograms, breast cancer detection. We end up doing a lot of, sampling when we shouldn't, and maybe we miss some that we shouldn't have missed. But you can go back and you can take a mammogram and they can find when it was barely there, barely a little dot, that would turn into cancer better than a radiologist, be it better than a doctor, better than the human brain. It can predict what is going to happen with that cluster of cells. And you can search for this name here and you can read all about the article, but this is just a kind of a quick summary of it. So Google DeepMind AlphaFold. So folding proteins is one of the problems that we have during research. So if we can do that digitally, if it can run through a million different options of protein folding and we can find the 5 that are most likely to work, then we can test those. That eliminates so much work in understanding diseases and discovering new drugs. So I'm very, very excited for all of the new technology that's going to come around medication and drug discovery using software like this, tools like this. Airbus, so elevating aircraft maintenance with AI. So we can use predictive maintenance to analyze the data from aircraft sensors, right? So maybe when the temperature sensor increases by 2 degrees, that's indicative of a upcoming maintenance failure that maybe we didn't know about before. So using that generative AI, that predictive AI to let us know about problems up front. Breaking language barriers, and this one's really interesting. Just natural language speaking being translated and coming out in natural language for somebody else. That's huge. But also this next one here is about AI for accessibility. So this is really interesting. So voice recognition, visual assistance, cognitive support, and getting those into the hands of people it can really change their lives. So this Seeing AI was developed by Microsoft, and it helps visually impaired people understand their surroundings by describing the things that the AI sees. That can change someone's life. Like that would change someone's world. So I'm so excited for all of these these are things above and beyond my level of work, but seeing the cool things that engineers are doing in these spaces. Things like urban traffic management. How can you use real-time data to predict and optimize traffic light timing, right? We've all been stuck in traffic. I wish an AI would take that over for us because whatever we're doing right now is not working. All right, so a couple examples of how I use Copilot, and I would love, as this stimulates ideas for you guys, I would love to hear some ways that you use it, or, oh, wow, I would love, that's a great idea to use it in XYZ scenario. So I would love to kind of hear the inspiration that this inspires for you to help all of us get more ideas about how to use it. One caveat here, so make sure you understand the data privacy usage policies around whatever AI you're using. Some AI may share data with third parties, so you need to know, where is your data going? Is it kept just on your computer? Is it kept in a database? Is it being shared or sold in some way? So make sure to have a good understanding of that before you copy a legal brief and put it into an AI model. All right, so here are some prompts, and it was fun to go back and look through the prompts that I made over the last few months. So take XYZ table, remove all the numbers, and combine columns 2 and 3, right? Something like that. I'm in Excel. I have this table. I could ask someone to do it for me. I could do it myself and take 15 minutes, but asking it, it just instantaneously does it and pastes over that information, or I can copy and paste over that information. So little things like that may not take you very long, but if it'll save you 15 minutes of rote stuff that you don't have to do, then that's great. I've asked it things like, give me some ideas to explain risk management to a general audience, right? How can I simplify this? How can I break it down into smaller pieces and make it explainable? Look through my emails and let me know if there's any open tasks, right? And then I get a giant list of open tasks, and then I can ask it, hey, help me prioritize these based on due date or based on client, that type of thing. Help me write a training based on XYZ client, but instead of aerospace, gear it towards, manufacturing. And it can take that and give me some either slides, and I'll show you some of those, or, it can give me at least the content for it, if nothing else. All right, so like I said, I can turn it, there's a toggle button in Copilot. I can switch it from work mode to web mode. So we're gonna look at some ways that I use it for work mode. You can search my files, my documents, my transcripts, all my emails, and it will collect and collate and analyze that data and give me some response. All right, so something like take the last training I did for ISO 9001 and expand it to include this corresponding information from 14001. So it's going to use a combination of my own PowerPoints. I can actually attach a PowerPoint, or it can look through all of my PowerPoints, and it will go out and it will learn about 14001 and come back and provide that information. Comb through my emails and tell me what open action items I have. Like I said, help me prioritize this task list, right? I want to focus first on current clients and then on bids and proposals, and then lastly on social media, right? So it can break that down into a prioritized list for me. Maybe that's not quite, in the right order, and I can give it another iteration of, okay, yes, but move this client higher than that client, or put in deadlines for any of these dates. Help me refine my bio or write my resume. It's really great at taking natural language and making it sound better, right? Make this sound more professional. Make this sound like I'm older or younger or male or female, or I'm sure there's lots of crazy things you could do with it, right? But take this writing and help me change it in a certain way. All right, this has been huge for me. Compare these two contracts. Give me the key differences in intent. So I have my contract, I have another consultant, and we want to do a project together. Do we want to use my contract? Do we want to use their contract? Well, let's compare them, and it gives me an executive summary of what are the key differences, right? It's not like word for word, and I probably could ask it, give me word for word the differences, but what I'm asking is what are, this paragraph says different things the same thing in a different way, but what is the intent behind it? All right, so that one's been really cool. That has saved me hours just comparing contracts. I don't know if you guys love to dive through contracts, but just rips my soul to pieces. So I'm very happy to have AI do some of those things for me. We talked about refining my bio. All right, help me break down these actions into step-by-step tasks. So I had a project, we were kind of wrapping up, but we wanted to do something for the new year. So these were the things I was tasked with doing. So now I can have it break these down into a plan that I can then execute, right? How long, estimate the time it will take me to define the roles and responsibilities. Put this on a plan between January and June and put some dates to this and break it out a little bit and describe what each of these things are. And it can give me a really good rough draft, right? It's not going to be perfect, but it can really get me going and get me started in thinking the right things. All right, so I have a couple of things here in our chat. So I use AI to provide initial draft for contracts. This is from Morgan Boyd. Marketing content for email and social media campaigns, SEO content for websites, but also to generate database solutions, SQL, MySQL, automation scripts, etc. Saves me so much time. Awesome. Michael, an option that people aren't aware of, many people aren't, you can install large language models on your own computer instead of using software like LM Studio, and then download your own AI model from Hugging Face. That way, the AI is local to your computer and your info can't be used for training the general public, and many of them are free. Awesome. I love, love, love these tokens. All right, Christopher, I've seen Eric O. Olson at Central East Coast Lean create amazing publishable summary documents, action items, and recommendations using by feeding Claude AI pictures of sticky notes generated at Lean workshops, events, paired with a transcript of the session. I love that. See, I haven't even thought about that, right? Using a visual processing AI to help me process my notes and pull out action items and send out, to-dos to my team. Amanda, I've entered a SWOT analysis and had it generate a rough draft of a strategic plan, right? These are amazing, you guys. All right. Kevin above said, love the explained risk management to the general audience. All right. Oh, I love it. These are so cool. Exactly, Elizabeth. All right, so summarizing meetings for me as a consultant, as a project manager, that's one of the things I do, right? That's a huge chunk of my job is having a meeting and then being the one that drives that project or that action to closure, whether it's me doing the task or not. I need to be aware of everybody's tasks and what are they working on, and so that we can come back around to, making sure that they finish the thing. So providing a full transcription, video recording. I know I've seen it where, show me which part in the video we talked about XYZ vendor. So it can actually say at minute 4:58, right? Here we talk about it, and you can click there and go to that exact place and re-listen to that statement. High-level summaries, executive summaries of a meeting. If somebody misses a meeting, hey, here's the summary of the meeting to send out, and it is accurate, quote accurate, but pretty precise, pretty helpful to the meeting that I actually was just in. Finding action items, finding where we talked about a certain vendor. And I want to show this to you. So I can also have it create a full slide deck, and it's not perfect, right? It would be a good starting place. So I wanted to show you. Can you see my screen? Yes. Okay. Um, so I generated two PowerPoints here. So I have an introduction to AS 9100. Let's see if it'll open for us. All right, and it put together, so I said, write me a slide deck for a new audience on AS 9100, which is an aerospace ISO type standard, quality standard, and it put together 12 slides of some really great basic content, right? And I could probably say, okay, build out slide 8 and tell me more and things like that, but just the fact that it can throw something together and generate a PowerPoint is amazing. So you could take a proposal, or you could take a report and say, generate, a project report out, generate a PowerPoint from this report, and it would then put together slide decks for you. So this is just Copilot. I know there are specific PowerPoint style AIs that do just this. So I'm sure they're above and beyond these capabilities already, but this is really cool technology. Let's see, Jennifer, I've used ChatGPT to act as the learner or coach for Toyota Kata. It gives great prompts and tips and helps me develop as a coach. Yeah, so you're using it for like self-coaching, right? You're having it, ask you questions and prompt you. All right, let's get back to this one. Okay, so that was kind of how it dives into my own documents and my own work. When I switch it to web mode, I can then just search the internet, right? Don't look at my documents, don't look at my emails, but go out and find some information that I'm looking for. So it searches the internet. There, I think, is the misconception that because models were trained on old data, they can't find current data. But I can go in and type in, do some research on Blake Consulting Group, and it will come up with everything about me from my website. So it's not necessarily not available just because they weren't trained on the newer data. And I don't remember the exact year. I know they say like they were trained on 2016 data. Maybe someone else. Morgan, if you're having a rough day and trust your AI with your info, it's a pretty good therapist too. That is amazing.
It's hilarious.
I I also use ChatGPT to help train me on writing codes and formulas for Salesforce analytics. Yeah, I'm not even touching on the ways you can use it for coding, right? Software developers have been using this for years. They have their own, a lot of times, in-house platforms, AI platforms that they can develop software on and write code.
Um, Jessica, here's a question. Sorry if I
Okay.
missed this. Which app are you using to generate the PowerPoint decks?
So that one was generated using Copilot. So that's the Microsoft AI, but there are specifics. If you guys know of any, I know there's a couple IT folks in here that I recognize. If you guys know of any specific PowerPoint generation AI, feel free to throw it in there. I don't know anything about them, but that one that I showed was from Copilot. Great basic, but I'm sure there's uh, bigger and better out there already. And Morgan said I've had success with Copilot. All right. So here's a couple of ones I've searched for. Help me think through the risks that might come from the rollout of a new lean initiative at a medium-sized manufacturing facility. I could also include all kinds of context, right? There are 3 managers and they've been there for 6 years, and we have a team of 47, and you could go on and add all kinds of context. But just that question alone, right? It might come up with 10 risks and 5 of them I haven't thought of. And it's a really great way to start the conversation. Again, don't stop there, but use that to spur you on and continue the conversation. Give me 10 options for good quality metrics in a medium-sized metal manufacturing facility. We used this a couple weeks ago with the client, right? Let's pop it in there and see what kind of things it comes up with. And then we had a really great discussion about some of them that came up on the screen, right? We didn't use all of them. We didn't use half of them, but it was a good discussion starting place. Compare and contrast these 3 problem-solving methodologies and put the answer into a table. So 3C, 8A, A3. I had a client say, we'd like to use 3C problem solving. I was like, great, I know this much about it, but how does that compare? How does that contrast? Right? I use that a lot with ISO things too. Compare and contrast this standard to this standard, or this, how is this clause different than this clause? Put it into a table so I can see it clearly. So it talks through the steps, right? The structure and complexity, the focus, the application. So you can have it summarize, collate all kinds of data for you. This is one I used recently. Give me a table of software that can create an assessment. So I was looking at creating a survey type assessment where I can go into a manufacturing facility, right? And I can ask questions and I can answer in this assessment. And so it gave me a list of 10 different softwares, approximate monthly pricing. I may need to go confirm those. And then maybe use cases, or why would I pick this one over that one, or key features. Then I could say, okay, I don't want to do anything over $50 a month or $200 a month. Give me some more options in this price range, and it can then come back. Again, it may not be perfectly accurate, but it's a great place to start on something like this. All right, give me a simple layout of how to use something like training within industry with a team, right? And it gives me this: job instruction, breakdown, job methods, job relations, program development. Maybe I have some experience with this, so this is familiar stuff to me, but help me simplify this so I can explain it to the frontline employees that we're about to roll out this job instruction to, right? What is it? Why does it matter? Job methods, why does it matter? It helps improve efficiency and reduce waste, right? So I use it a lot to say, how can I easily explain this? Or tell me a funny example. That's one of my favorite things to do for a training, is give me a really funny, silly example of root cause and corrective action, right? So I have one in my root cause and corrective action training with a cat that chews on the cord from your computer, from your laptop, and your computer won't turn on, right? So silly things. Give me some scenarios, give me some funny examples. I love being able to bring in more creative thoughts than I could probably think of on my own when I'm tired and, it's the end of the day, that kind of thing. So gets those brain juices going. All right, here's another one. So give me an example of how to use an in-process inspection and statistical process controls to monitor a process. So in-process inspection, how do we set it up? What inspection points? What tools might we need? What kind of documentation might we need? Statistical process controls. Then I could say, tell me more about X-bar charts. Teach me that like I'm a fifth grader, right? What does that mean to me as a user? And then it gives me some example scenarios. So I could ask it, give me 10 more example scenarios that I could use. Let's see, corrective action, give away the cat. Thank you, Greg. I love it. Sharing the example of comparing lean tools. Jennifer, I usually use make it more casual instead of simplify. I tend to prefer the results. Yeah, that's a great one. I love that. Yeah, and those little tweaks, right, that can give us a big difference. Maybe you try one and then you try the other and you like one or the other. So try to tweak it if it's not exactly what it is you're looking for. Don't be afraid to ask it, right? Um, Copilot has since been my go-to IT person, right? How do I do this thing in Microsoft? Just today, what were we doing? We were doing something, and so we popped open Copilot. How do I do XYZ? Oh, I needed to map a network drive. And I was like, gosh, I know I've done it before, but it's been many years. And so pull it up. How do we map a network drive? Bam, 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 step by step. Sometimes it's not accurate. So sometimes I have to be like, that didn't work, or that button wasn't there. What can I try next? And so it will then give me the next iteration. In this case, can I use Microsoft Forms to do an assessment? Can I assign it a score of 1 to 5? And then it gave me an answer and I kind of played around with it and it wasn't quite right. So I said, Microsoft Forms doesn't seem customizable enough. Give me step-by-step instructions to build something using Power Apps. And it gave me 5 or 6 instructions, not probably enough to do it without more training, but enough to get me started. Like, is this possible? Could I do this? Can you show me some use cases of this being done? This was a funny one, right? I had a recipe that called for, I think it called for 9 cups of sweet potato. And I was like, why would they give it to us in cups, like cubed sweet potato? So I was able to ask, how many cups of cubed sweet potato does my 3-pound bag make? And it was able to give me 9.7 cups. So even silly stuff like this, right around the kitchen. What are some great chores for my 6-year-old to use? Things like that, right? What are some great self-care techniques to use in the new year when things are getting crazy, right? So things like that you could use to make your life better. Um, the example of the news, right? Tell me about the drones that are unidentified in New Jersey. I didn't want to go out and read 15 different news articles and not sure the sources and people are, too dramatic. Give me some facts. And as you see here, it lists the sources. So then I was able to click on those sources, newjersey.com, CNN, and NBC News, go to those sources, and I could read basically the article that statement was pulled from, though they're summarized, right? So the FBI has urged residents not to shoot these down, came from 2 sources, both number 3 and number 2. So I was able to then go, if I wanted to read more, I could click on any of these and go into it. And Elizabeth, you and I were talking about that in advance, right? You were talking about Perplexity, that you can look up a research topic, tell me about memory and emotion or something like that. And it will give you citations to journal articles to go look at. And I think in general, AI is getting better about doing that. We've needed that as a population, right? We're not just going to trust what comes to us, knowing that there have been lots of false information that's come out, hallucinations, as they call them. So knowing that this is coming from a few sources makes me pretty confident that this information is pretty accurate. All right. I have loved doing, give me a book summary on a book that I either haven't read or I want to reread. Give me a book summary or tell me Tony Robbins' best tips for, I don't know, whatever, right? Making my life better. And it will collate and find that information for you. Again, it may not be precise or precisely accurate, but it will get you in the right direction. Maybe I ask it, give me the best books for a woman in leadership, and it could probably come up with a wonderful list. I could also ask that of my network, and they might give me 100 book options, but maybe I pick a few and I come back and I say, summarize these 5 books for me, or combine all that into one guide for me to improve my life in 2025 or something, right? So many options, so exciting. All right, a couple of ways to specifically use AI to improve our lean and continuous improvement implementations. We're going to follow the DMAIC kind of layout. So you can ask it to coach you, like Jennifer said, right? be a coach, pretend to be a coach, and coach me in developing a very detailed problem statement. So I did this, and I don't remember what problem I described, but it asked me, tell me your current state, describe the current situation, what's your ideal state that you're trying to achieve? What's the gap between desired and ideal, or current and desired? What are the impacts of this? Right. And so it can help me iterate and ask me the right questions to get to the definition of the problem statement that I need. All right. Measuring. So this one seems like a really clear way that we can use AI. So data collection, cleaning up that data, analyzing data, right? Maybe we use it on an assembly line for apples that have defects, right? Of bigger than a quarter of a centimeter. We can use it for benchmarking or visualization, right? Visually seeing data that's coming back. So that seems like a really, I feel like we all have a pretty good idea of like what that looks like. That's not something I can personally code or do, but there are experts out there that can. I thought this one was really interesting. This one was at BMW, and so they were taking, instead of just a visual inspection of these car parts, of these manufacturing parts, they were able to, um, screen and scan a huge amount of data to find defects. And then those were sent to a human to look at and to say, hey, we flagged this as a potential problem. And the human would then go pull it off the line and do, maybe non-destructive testing or something like that. So if you want to learn more about that, there's a link, or you can search for that title. But we're able to process huge amounts of data and look for those patterns that maybe we would miss as a human. All right, so the improved state, identifying best performance configurations. So not necessarily consistent, right? In Lean, we often want to bring it down to a standardized, a standard way of doing things. But that takes away the nuance of sometimes the solution has nuance, right? So instead, maybe we can come up with the best performance configuration for a certain type of apple, right? Maybe green apples show bruises more readily, but they're fine, or vice versa. So maybe we can customize it so that it can have all kinds of variation and nuance in the analysis. All right, Amanda, I am a straight to the point person. So I actually tell ChatGPT to add fluff to sentences and paragraphs for me. Make this sound friendly. I love it. AI-based simulation and digital twins. Can we create a digital twin or an AI simulation of some part? And I know we've been doing this for many years, but taking this to the next level, how can we non-destructive test this with a model instead of with a real part or a prototype? All right, so I love Paul Akers' 2-second lean, right? So write me an agenda for a 15-minute morning meeting. And by golly, it came out with a pretty good one, right? It has minute by minute, welcome, safety moment, lean improvement updates, metrics, training and development, announcements, and closing and motivation. And I know specifically Paul has a lot of his stuff out for free on his website. So I'm hoping this is, pretty in line with his agenda. I know he has one posted. I haven't compared them to check, but this is a great place to start, right? Let's prototype this with our team and iterate from there. All right, help me explain the 8 wastes using a small story, right? Paul is a big proponent of make this a real story so that people really understand. Transportation, the baker had to walk across the kitchen to get the ingredients. The bakery stocked up on too many ingredients and then some of them expired. Motion, the bakers often had to bend and stretch to reach tools. The bakers often waited for ovens to become available and there were delays. They baked more pastries than they could sell. So taking some of these ideas and concepts that we study and, as CI people, we know turning that into a story to share that with a more general audience, I think can be huge. I think the Six Sigma specifically, it has such a barrier to entry that if we can bring this down to normal conversation level, then we can access a lot more people and get them on board. We're not making them memorize an acronym, right? We're telling them a story, and adding stories can be a great way to get our ideas across. All right. So give me some more examples of non-utilized talent. And it gave me all of these, right? Mismatched job roles, lack of cross training. Sometimes I like to read things from the bottom, sorry. Ignoring employee suggestions, inflexible job roles, lack of professional development, ineffective leadership, not embracing diversity, right? Have you thought about diversity when it came to undeveloped employee talent? Maybe not. Maybe you have. Um, and maybe I say now, okay, tell me more about not embracing diversity and how that impacts our workforce in the vein of lean and continuous improvement. So just looking for ways to communicate that to the people we're working with, right? So control charts or controlling our processes. Statistical process methods, they could easily be replaced with this like deep learning, machine learning networks that can identify outliers. So, if our temperature or our pressure goes up, or all of a sudden we're changing filters more than we were the month before, what does that mean? And are we out of control? And what do we need to do for it? And I really liked, this is an interesting one too, this financial fraud. So detecting financial fraud charges um, has a really high false alarm rate, and they were only catching 40% of actual fraud cases. So by using machine learning and AI, they were able to drastically improve both measurements. And I remember that from some like movie back in the 2000s, maybe somebody will remember it, but they were saying like if you're faking a transaction, you're more likely to use let's say a 9 and an 8 than you are a 4 and a 3 or something like that, right? And so it can start to learn these patterns of what was a false financial fraud and what was a false alarm, and start to learn from that data. So there's some really cool stuff. Hopefully it'll get all those fraudsters out of there, all this SNAP benefits fraud that's going on. So that's all I have. I just wanted to share some of these cool ways to use AI, the things I found. I have loved listening to or reading the things you guys have used. I'm going to take some of these and run with them. I hope this inspires you to just test it out, right? Dip your toes in the water, start using it, practice, play around with it, be creative. And I'm so excited to see what you guys create with this new era we are in. So I will open it up for any questions, or Elizabeth, if you have anything.
Yeah, no, I was going to open it up and say, yeah, the examples are fascinating. And I think when I put this out to the community, I'm going to quote a lot of what the folks in this chat have shared. I mean,
Yeah.
some of these just hadn't occurred to me. I'm sure light bulbs are going off all over the place. Like, yeah, Alicia's saying you opening my eyes. Like that's how I feel. I've written a bunch of things like, oh, I could have done, oh, I could do this. Like just places you don't normally go to in
Uh-huh.
terms of what it does. Um, yeah, and so you're getting a lot of, yeah, and practical examples. Danielle, I agree. A lot of practical stuff there that you can just use. Um, I
Um,
think what is, if you think about what made you choose Copilot, and you listed so many, and of course there's,
mhm.
another list out there with completely different lists, but what
Yeah.
made you choose? What makes you feel like that's going to do the work for you that you want most?
Yeah, the differentiating thing for me was that it was in my Microsoft tenant already, so it had access to all of my data. So I really love the idea of it going through my emails and helping me prioritize or pulling actions out or helping me summarize my meetings, and can put that immediately into our Teams chat for the team to access, right? So because it was already there innate in my universe, that's
Yeah.
that's why I chose it. Yeah.
And what about, I mean, if this came up a lot here and you brought it up, what about what did you do to protect your data, right?
Yeah.
How did you, does Copilot say we're not going to share your data? Like, how does that work?
That's a good question. I don't know the details of their policy, so I should probably find out. But I do make a point not to put anything extra in it that's uber private, but it does have access to, right, my contracts and my pricing and my proprietary content that I put together. So it's something I'm going to go check out right after this. I learned
Yeah, I
this
mean, I
too.
feel like intellectual property is a huge battleground for artificial intelligence. And what you brought up. It's like, oh, a lot of us don't know. I don't know, right?
Yeah.
I've got whatever the pro version of ChatGPT, and I'm like, have I not checked that? Oh, there's a question here. Yeah, this is Ravi asking, how worried should we be on the security aspect?
Yeah. Any IT folks? I know there's a couple of IT friends on the call. If you want to chime in, we would love to have your expertise. I think there's good actors and bad actors, and hopefully all of these are run by good people. Who knows what that means, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I think one thing you've pointed out that I feel like we all focused in on a lot of the bad things happening. I think there's a lot of fear um, in terms of, it eating up people's jobs. There was some comedian or not even a comedian, what said that I forgot what it was, but it's not going to take your job, but it's if you don't learn how to use it, like you're not going to be as employable.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
the other thing I was thinking that you pointed out that it really I found enlightening was just the realm we don't look at. Like you
Mhm.
were looking at what's happening in medicine, like the accessibility issues around
Mhm.
someone I've had bizarrely three friends that had ALS. So
Mhm.
being able to communicate became an increasingly difficult thing, and they had to use things where they could use movements of their eyes. But I'm
Mhm.
thinking all of them would have benefited. They
Yeah.
all, that predated AI. So it was like, um,
Yeah.
that kind of thing will make a massive difference. So I know there's solutions happening in science and in different realms. Salvador is asking, what was the best resource that you found to learn more about Copilot?
I would say Copilot itself, right? Can you do this? I ask that a lot. Can you do this for me? And it says no, but I can give you the information, or no, but so I think it'll grow and expand as the years go on. But I find just using it and learning what answers do I get well, and what answers, that didn't really give me what I was needing. What can I change?
Yeah.
If anybody
Um,
else has any resources, I'd
yeah,
love.
Kyle said he's going to ask Copilot how his data is used, pricing, contract,
Yeah.
right? And so to your point, and I
Yeah.
think that someone early on said that it's killing them. They can't use it because it's a government organization, and they're like, no, we're not gonna have
Yep.
AI. So, and I know that's all security issues.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
Um,
yep. So for big organizations, it makes sense. They're probably all blocking it, which is frustrating. But I mean, I think there's a dark side of it as well. So hopefully we'll figure out those challenges so that everybody can use the good, positive aspects of it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, thanks, Jessica. This is just so enlightening. It was what a great hour of just like
Wow.
information and light bulbs going off. Thank you so much for coming to the cafe. I'm sure we're gonna pull you right back in the future. You're a lovely instructor.
Thanks.
That was wonderful. Thank you.
All right. I'd love to
And
connect with everybody. So connect on LinkedIn. I'm sure you're connected with Elizabeth. Yeah, come connect with us.
yeah, please. She helpfully put some stuff out there. Yeah, on LinkedIn too. And we'll see you guys in the new year with some new events coming. So I'll keep you posted on that too.
All
And
right.
take care, everybody. See you,
Thank you,
Jessica.
everyone.